Hello and welcome. I am Barbara Trattler, Director of Clinical Education for Advanced Sterilization Products. Thank you for joining the webinar presentation today. The goal of today's webinar is to provide you with insight, advice, and best practices from different perspectives in the healthcare community affected by the STERIS System 1 situation. You will be hearing from OR nurses going through the transition now, and you'll also hear from medical device manufacturer representatives who are working with their customers to handle this issue. As Director of Clinical Education for ASP, I have been working closely with many healthcare facilities. What I am hearing daily from the healthcare facilities we work with is that there is confusion about how quickly the transition needs to happen. Some hospitals are struggling to determine the best alternatives for their facilities. There are concerns regarding the cost of new equipment. Others worry that using the SS1 during the transition period increases the liability for their facility. Additionally, the recent news of the STERIS System 1E has resulted in more confusion amongst facilities as to what this new system will achieve if the end product is still not assured to be sterile. But most importantly, many are interested in a transition to terminal sterilization, a higher standard of care. The bottom line is widely understood. Advancing to a higher standard of care is well worth the effort. A key question I have received is, what is ASP doing to assist healthcare facilities during this difficult time? First off, to respond to your needs, we have accelerated the launch of the OR Solution, a comprehensive solution of technology, processes, and education to ensure best practices and standards are met for terminal sterilization in the OR. Additionally, to ensure you can swiftly move to alternative solutions, we have ramped up our supply and production. The truth is, you can transition quickly to an alternative method of sterilization. Because cost is a major concern for healthcare facilities, we've adjusted our financial terms and created new incentive programs to help address payment challenges while providing you with immediate access to solutions that deliver a higher standard of care. Additionally, to ensure you have a transition plan in place within the 18-month time frame, we've increased our service and education staff and have developed new resources to aid in your transition, many of which can be located on a newly developed website at www.aspjj.com/alternatives. Of course, we've also launched a webinar series. This is the second one, as an opportunity to address many of your most pressing questions. If you have not viewed our first webinar, please know that you can find it on the same website. On today's agenda, we'll hear firsthand from OR leaders on how they address terminal sterilization practice in their OR. We'll also learn how medical device companies are assisting healthcare facilities during this situation. And of course, we'll answer some of the questions you have submitted to us. So let's begin. I would first like to introduce the Director for Perioperative Services at Capitol Health. June Wyris has responsibility for surgical services for 2 facilities and is going to share with you how she addressed the need to transition from the STERIS System 1.
I first found out about the FDA announcement regarding the SS1 probably within a day of its release. There were a lot of questions that came to mind, because this was a product we had been using for many years. So our first thought was it couldn't possibly be the equipment we'd been using. But I soon found out otherwise, and I knew that we had no choice but to act on it. I knew it would only be a matter of time before the folks in infection prevention would start asking questions and looking to us for answers. So we had to get working on it. The first thing we did was bring together some lead people at the table from the operating room and central sterile processing. We plotted out the kinds of instruments that were going in the SS1 and what the possible alternatives that we had at our immediate disposal, and how did those alternatives impact our turnaround times. We have a manager in central sterile processing, and he immediately began researching to see what is the best thing to meet our long-term goal the answer for us happens to be the STERIS NX. It's technology we're already familiar with and we trust, and it meets the needs of the majority of our instrumentation that have heat-sensitive issues. It also won't delay our turnaround times either. Plus, we have the added bonus of having a terminally sterilized product at the end. Well, anybody who works in the operating room arena knows that this is one of the highest risk areas in any healthcare facility. It's always subject to close scrutiny. It's like being under a microscope. So when this came about, I definitely felt a sense of urgency to act on the FDA alert. If there is ever a question or concern for patient safety or a potential of any liability to the staff or the hospital, we can't sit around and wait for the dust to settle and hope for the best. The nature of this environment drives us to be very proactive and come up with a plan of action. Continuing to use something that is not FDA approved is not something we wanted to do any longer than necessary, regardless of how long we had been using the item in the past. So going to administration for capital spending was the next step. This was not an issue because all they have to hear is that FDA has concerns about potential impact on patient safety, and you have their attention. Our organization strives for the highest in quality care, and our senior leadership is very supportive in that respect. So there was no question that funds would be provided to make this transition. So finally, after all this work and research, our choice is made. We're moving forward with the STERIS NX in the operating room, and we're currently working through the transition process. My advice to other OR directors is to talk to your experts who know your instruments and who know their manufacturer recommendations for sterilizations. You need to do your research and figure out what meets the needs for your OR. You need to consider how it will impact your daily operations, such as quick availability of instruments and turnaround times. For us, we knew we wanted a sterile wrapped instrument set for immediate or future use. But most of all, you need to consider what is best for your patients, because that is the reason why we are here. ASP has been a great resource, and they've been very helpful in answering our questions. Our contacts there have given us all the information we need to validate that we're making the right choice to meet our needs. My manager in central processing, he is the sterilization expert, and he was the one who took the lead in asking questions to our contact in the company. We did look at other alternatives, but we quickly came back to the STERIS NX. The STERIS NX offers the technology of terminally sterilized flexible endoscopes, which is something that we did not have in the past. This is a good choice for us. It's almost a relief to know that we are going to meet a high standard of patient safety and quality care by going with a terminally sterilized product. It alleviates a lot of questions and concerns for us. We know in the end we will have a good, safe product for our patients. And that is always something we strive for in our particular healthcare facility and in the operating room arena.